Today we have the amazing Dr. Aumatma with us, and she is sharing all things fertility. This is such an interesting episode, and I have found that we have so many different synergies in the way that we see women's health, whether that be through stress management or, as she says, stress resilience and creating stress resilience as opposed to trying to remove stress from our lives, or as simple as how the foundations play such an important role no matter our reproductive life stage. Let's dive into this episode. I hope you enjoy. Don't forget to share with a friend, leave a comment, rate and review. We love hearing your feedback.
Hello, Flow State Podcast listeners. We are very, very grateful for our guest today, Dr. Aumatma Simmons, who is a double board certified naturopathic endocrinologist. And today we are going to dive into the world of fertility, and not just through the lens of conventional medicine, but from a more holistic and empowered sense of the word. And if you are someone that's faced your own fertility challenges or have questions around this topic of conversation, today's episode is for you. Welcome, Dr. Simmons. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
I'm very excited.
Really excited to share this. I think obviously Nora being pregnant, fertility has been top of mind for her. For me, I'm 35 years old. I got divorced in the last 2 years and still very much want a family. Mm-hmm. So it's been a focus for me too, just in keeping fertility longevity top of mind, staying healthy as much as I can so that I have the opportunity to have children when the time comes. Mm-hmm. So we're excited to chat with you, and we'd love for you to just start by sharing how you got into this space and what your journey has to lead you to here.
Mm-hmm. So I actually share a similar story to yours, Monica. I was in my early 30s and had just gotten a divorce, or actually even like a small backtrack. My now ex-husband, he was like, I want to have children. When can we start trying? And literally, like, every time baby would come out of his mouth, my uterus would scream, no! And I was like, oh crap, but I'm already married. What does this mean? And that was the impetus for me to start diving into fertility. Could I preserve fertility if I don't freeze my eggs? Could I get pregnant later in life? Should I have a child with the wrong person just because he's here and he wants to have a child together? So those were all of the questions that I was swimming in for my early 30s. And really what I like locked myself in a room for 9 months, not literally, but I was literally like every second I had was spent doing research. And everything that I had learned in medical school was your fertility drops off of a cliff at 35, blah, blah, blah. What I actually found and like kind of was upset by was that it's not actually true. And I traced that 35 thing all the way back to the 1800s in France, where women were not coming to get their children baptized after the age of 35. And that's where that myth comes out.
What?
Yeah.
So because maybe they were more emotionally mature and had decided that like the church wasn't the right route for them and their family?
No, actually 1800s in France. So of course, me being who I am, I was like, well, what was life expectancy for women in the 1800s in France? And it was like 33 and a half. And I'm like, well, yeah, women are not going to get their children baptized because they are no longer on this planet. So that is the crux of where that started. And
so fertility dropped off a cliff because the women had
expiring.
Passed away.
Yes.
Not their
fertility
eggs.
did actually drop off of a cliff. Your eggs did actually like crash and burn, and granted, like, I want to couch this with like, yes, there is fertility decline. Like, that's a very real thing. But because there are no studies that actually show this drop off of a cliff, it's a little bit of, well, why are we telling people this? And it's based on this myth that came out of the 1800s. What the studies that now exist, there are two, I would say, relatively small scale studies. They're not like massive numbers of women, but what they've found is that they've studied women between the age groups of 25 and 29 versus 35 and 39, and they find a 3% decline in fertility. That's really not a cliff. It's not anywhere near a cliff, but that's the average rate of decline between these two age groups.
I swear, as you're saying this, my eggs are like blooming inside of me.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I felt. I was like, wait, so if that's not true, then what else is not true? And that's really how I got into fertility, was because I started talking to people I knew about it, and they're like, wait, what? Are you serious? Why are we still going off of what happened in the 1800s? And I was like, I'm not sure. I don't know where there's science, but that's not it. So as I started sharing that with people, they were like, great, you can help me get pregnant. And I was like, oh no, that's not what the plan was. And, eventually I said yes to the first person that was really adamant, and she ended up being my first like success story. That was 13 years ago.
Very cool.
And yeah, just been doing it ever since. I was like, wow, that was amazing. Let's do it again. And just really got hooked to the idea that we could support the health of a future baby, the epigenetics of that child, and the health of the two humans that created that baby. Because fertility was just such a place where people were like, yeah, tell me what to do. Like, I'll do it. I'll do whatever, like I do want to have the healthiest kid, and the fact that we're not getting pregnant, I'll do whatever.
Yeah.
So it became a really great way for me to use all of my naturopathic knowledge, and like prevention is better than cure, and let's view the body in a holistic way. And literally like everything that I had learned in naturopathic medical school applied to this context of fertility, which is a pressure cooker in a lot of ways, and brings up so much emotional stuff, as well as like things just, especially for men. I'm like blown away by how many men have prediabetes, borderline methylation issues, epigenetic issues, and it's not being tested. It's not being addressed. So for me, it became like, hey, like not only am I getting people these results, in the midst of it, I get to like improve their health and hopefully tack on like 10, 15, 20 years to their life in a healthy way, without them making huge changes or waiting till 20 years from now when they're diagnosed with some disease. So that's how I got into it, and like kind of fell in love with fertility and what I was able to support people with.
I love that. And I hope that people listening, because even that change in rhetoric of saying like there isn't this magical drop off, or like your eggs aren't expiring, I hope that people will just breathe this sigh of relief, because it's also so individualized, right? Like there's no one size, after 35, now you're a geriatric pregnancy. Like, how offensive, one. No, thank you. And that 3%, right? Like that is a small change in comparison to what people might be told. So I hope that this just gives people more agency and feeling more empowered along this. There isn't an expiration date necessarily. Now, that doesn't mean ignore all of the things and wait until then to start supporting your body, right? We're not saying that. And I'm also really excited to dive into the male partner side of this conversation, because that is something that I see so often missed, is that The woman is really responsible for the getting and the staying pregnant. And then when they are pregnant, or I've heard this even myself, like, oh, you must have a good shot to my husband. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so they get the credit when it happens. But if something happens, which I had a miscarriage first 2 years ago, and you, as the woman, feel responsible for the failure
Mm-hmm.
or the not getting pregnant. So, like,
Yeah.
okay, let's
Yeah.
let's balance this out here and talk about that. So I'm very excited to talk more about that today too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I have to say about the male side is probably going to be blowing your mind as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there are, I think that's another misnomer, like what you just pointed
Right.
out. A lot of times the men are not part of the
Mm-hmm.
equation, they're not being factored in. And a lot of men are being told, "Oh, your sperm are normal,"
Right.
and like, what does normal mean in this reality? And it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, normal is
Not
not
good.
optimal, especially in today's medical world.
Yeah,
It's just not.
yeah, yeah,
I listened to your TED Talk, and that's amazing that you recently did. It was recent, right?
yeah. It was
You
very
recently did a
recent.
TED Talk, so anyone listening, definitely go and Google that and find that. It's an amazing
We'll put it in the
conversation.
show notes for you.
Yeah, but you talked about the natural safety system
Yeah,
in the body. And
yeah.
so I'm curious if you can share more about that and its effect on fertility or trying to conceive.
Yeah. So essentially, our nervous system is the core of our beingness. And if the nervous system is sensing things that are threats, those threats could be external in the form of relationship distress, or they can be, and I don't know if you experienced this, Monica, but just as an example of that, like when I was with my ex-husband, I had the worst periods,
Mm.
like awful PMS. Like, who is this person? I could not understand. I was like, I'm doing all of the same things that I've always done, yet I got married and now I have shit periods.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
I'll share real quick that
yeah.
my ex-husband and I tried to get pregnant for probably 6 months, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We did not, I do not have
Yeah.
children. And I think that that's been a hard thing for me because of that experience. I'm like, oh, do I have fertility issues?
Mm.
Um, but what I believe, and we're talking about this right now,
Mhm, mhm.
that it was just my body's way of knowing that, like,
Mm.
there was unsafety in that
Yeah.
relationship,
Yep.
and my nervous system was dysregulated in that relationship, and so
Yeah.
it was just a knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I was the same. I feel like I felt that in a very like visceral way, and my periods were telling me that. I just was not listening until he started talking about having children, and I was like, "Oh god, no." Like I can't even imagine that. So that level of unsafe feeling is going to trigger the nervous system. And then the nervous system is regulating everything else, including our endocrine system, which is going to affect our hormones and be the indicator of, do we have healthy cycles? Are we able to get pregnant? Are we able to whatever? All of that stuff. So that's one type of unsafe response.
Mm-hmm.
The other is things that we consider quote unquote stress.
Mm.
So that can be, your boss, your parents, whatever, all the things that are going on in your life that could be construed as stress are going to dysregulate your nervous system. So that's another one. But then there are things that we don't often consider. And I know we talk about it a lot in the context of fertility, which is toxins.
Mm-hmm.
And what is like coming up more and more these days is like mold and
Mm-hmm.
parasites and like essentially things that are triggering our immune response, which is like the neuroendocrine immunology connection. which is our nervous system is now responding to our immune system being triggered and under attack.
Right.
So essentially, like for me, this idea of safety really has become the crux of understanding and trying to assess whether someone's body is triggering a response to not conceive because their body mind spirit doesn't feel safe in that period in time for whatever reason. And then my job becomes, let's figure out what's triggering this unsafe response. I talked to this couple of weeks ago, and she was like conveying that they really wanted to get pregnant. They've been trying for 3 years. They're high school sweethearts. They've been together for like 20 years. And it's not happening. And they're just like, we don't understand. She's 30, maybe 30, 29. And so we're reviewing her labs that have come back, and like as soon as I look at her lab report, I was like, you've had a really tough life. What's happening? And her adrenals were like at the bottom, right? Her graph of her cortisol is bottomed out. She doesn't have any cortisol, no cortisone, no building blocks. It's like all of her hormones are depleted. So at 29, that's a really abnormal thing to see. So I said to her, like, what's happening? Have you had this like really rough life? And she starts crying, and she's like, yeah, it's been so tough. And, she's conveying her childhood, which wasn't very pleasant. But then she goes into their relationship, and he is in the Marine Corps or something. He's like a pilot for the US Army, and he gets deployed every single month. And for the last 3 years, they have moved to like 8 different cities because of his work. And they basically, like, the Army comes in, or like whoever, I forget what that technical term is, but the Marines or whoever comes in, takes all of their stuff, moves them to the next place, and now they're in a completely new location. And I'm like, so just think about the level of unsafe that you're constantly feeling. Your partner, who is your ride or die, essentially, is constantly being pulled away. He could get killed in any one of these deployments. And then you have not even the safety of a home that's consistent. And they just like heard what I said, and they were like, oh my God. Like, and I was like, so in this scenario, like, it doesn't actually feel safe for your body to reproduce if at any minute the rug can be pulled out from under you. And that's a complete reflection of your childhood, right? So she already has that pattern. Her nervous system's already dysregulated, and then you add that to the way that their life is right now, and they're like, well, it's not going to change for another year or two. And I'm like, great, no problem. Let's work on rebuilding your hormones. Let's work on rebuilding your capacity. Let's retrain your nervous system. But you don't try to have a child until this situation actually changes. And they like both breathed a sigh of relief, and they were like, oh my God, this is the best news ever, because it just means that they don't have to like rush into this, and that they can shift their timeline a little bit because she's got plenty of eggs in her ovaries. So it's not the concern of, oh my God, I'm going to run out of time. And she's like, well, no one ever made sense of this. But in the context of what's happening, it makes perfect sense to her why her body wouldn't let her get pregnant.
I'm curious, you said like we're going to work on this. We're going to rebuild.
Yeah.
Where do you start, and what does that process look like? Like I'm sure people are listening and are grasped by this story, and I love that we have this to kind of take us on our journey too, but where do you start?
Well, for her, it's going to be a lot of adrenal rebuild. So I think of adrenal rebuilding as we can do this with herbs, food, supplements, and lifestyle, like sleep. And how do we like not trick your nervous system, but how do we mimic safety in your nervous system even when there isn't?
Mm-hmm.
And there are, in my practice, what I've seen is like stability is one level of safety that we can create. So if we can get her to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time, like really create a solid routine, then her nervous system can at least relax one level, because now it knows, oh, I'm going to always wake up at 8 a.m. I'm always going to go to bed at 10. I'm always going to do this. I'm always going to do that. So as many like things as we can structure into her life, which is the opposite of what she feels like she needs,
Yeah.
right? Like she's like, I don't work. I can do whatever I want. I can like
Right.
kind of have this freedom of life. And I'm like, no, it's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's create more rigidity,
Structure.
more structure, because it tells your nervous system it doesn't have to worry about that one thing.
Yeah.
So slowly, we're just going to go through her lifestyle and be like, okay, great. Where else can we create safety? Where else can we create safety? And we haven't tested her yet, but I'm willing to bet her blood sugar levels are out of whack. So blood sugar will fluctuate throughout the day, which is normal. But if it's fluctuating too much, then that's another level of unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
So the body's constantly like, oh my God, when's my next meal? It's freaking out about that. So like just these little things, if we can start creating and mimicking safety,
Mm-hmm.
then her nervous system can take like one thing off of the list of stuff to worry about. And then we're going to get into potentially like bigger things, like how can, and her partner is beautiful, like just an amazing, beautiful soul. And he's like, I will do whatever I
Aww.
can to support her, right? So we'll figure out, like, as I talk to them more and I learn more about them, I can like try to create ways that we can support him to help like reinforce
Mm-hmm.
safety for her. Even if he's deployed or even if something's happening, like what are some ways that we can use to support you with feeling safe? So I think that's going to be a lot of it, and from her nervous system aspect. And then on the physical side, lots of herbs and supplements to help restore adrenal function and build up our cortisol. Sort of like the physiological need is that
Mm-hmm.
we're born with a reserve of adrenal life force energy. Chinese medicine calls this Jing,
Mm-hmm.
and yin. So if we can rebuild some of that Jing and yin, then we will be like restoring her vital life force energy and hopefully like filling that bucket back up to where it's reasonable for a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
In your experience, because I think it's really helpful, and this is something that I have a conversation. I'm a dietitian. I don't know if you know my
Mm-hmm.
background, but it's something that I think is really important when beginning the work with clients, patients, is setting expectations. In your experience, how long does a process like this take for someone to heal and set that safety stage, have more regular cycles, be in that
Mm-hmm.
more optimal fertility range?
Yeah. Well, we have done this in as short as 6 months
Mm-hmm.
and as long as 3 years.
Yeah.
And it really depends on the person,
Mm-hmm.
the couple, and their life circumstance. So for them, I suggested spreading this out over a year. I'm like, we could rebuild you and we could try to do all
Yeah.
of these things, but your life circumstances are going to change within a year
Right.
or two. So let's track alongside of it. That's not to say let's not do anything, but
Mm-hmm.
let's work on a slow rebuild, and you don't need to force anything, right? You can just like go slow and easy, and there's no rush for you to get pregnant right now. And luckily they were open to that idea.
I was gonna
If they
say, yeah,
weren't,
that's the ideal and unicorn situation for sure. Because most people are like, "No, I want it to happen yesterday. What can you
yeah,
do to fix this now?"
yeah, exactly. And we do have couples like that. And sometimes like there's often women that are doing shift work, for
Mm-hmm.
example. That's another level
Oh,
of
hard.
unsafe that the body is experiencing, especially when their cycles are flipped
Yeah.
randomly, right? Like they don't have any consistency in their sleep
Mm.
routine, and that's creating such a deep level of unsafe in the body. So for them, I will say, listen, the reality is we're going to need to change this. If that's not possible, I'm probably not the right person for you to be working
Yeah.
with. Um, but most of the time, like the people that we've worked with will say, forget it, I'll figure it out because I want to have this baby.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm.
how long will I need to change this? And they'll take like a temporary hit on their finances. They can still keep their job, they just have to shift to like a day shift. Uh, which, if
If they're
they're
able
going to
to.
be, if they're able to, if it's feasible, then it will work for them. And a lot of our people have. So, um, it's, you know, it's a case by case basis, but if there's a significant circumstance that's keeping their body locked into this like unsafe, I need to prioritize my survival over reproduction, there is nothing that I'm going to do that's going to overpower it. So in those cases, I just tell them, like, there's nothing I'm going to do that's going to magically make you reproduce. Your body, if it's locked in survival mode, is focused on how to help you survive. And the
Mm.
energy for we can either survive or we can reproduce. You can't do both. Um, so a lot of people resonate with that and say, okay, so what do I need to do? And I will throw out some ideas and then they'll figure out which idea works for them.
Do
And
you
it's not,
typically start your clients with lab work, or are you starting more with like foundations, like the like, okay, let's get your circadian rhythm on point. Let's manage your blood sugar. Let's see what you're eating.
mhm.
Which kind of approach do you take? Is it like everything at once, or are you just starting with foundations and then lab work?
Yeah, both and.
Okay.
So it's because most of the people, this couple that I just shared about is a little bit outside the norm. Most of the time, the couples that we're with either are actually running out of time,
Yeah.
so they don't have a ton of ovarian reserve that is going to allow them 2-3 years on their fertility cycles. So in that case, we need to move quickly, as quickly as possible. And then the other, we see kind of the quote unquote older women, which is like that over 38, 39 crowd, which I think is a really unique situation as well. And again, the same idea, like they don't have a ton of time. Even if they have ovarian reserve, their hormones can shift at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
gets a little bit more sensitive. So essentially, like the faster we do it, the better. And the more information I have, which is the blood testing or lab testing, the more information, the more background and context, the
Mm-hmm.
more we can like put a plan together that's going to work on all of the layers in an efficient way, rather than taking like a year or two to do something. And you know, I've done both over my life
Yeah.
cycle of being a practitioner, but I veer now more towards the testing simultaneously and quickly, and not waiting to, like, for example, there's 6 or 7 tests that we start with out of the gate, which sounds so like, what the heck? That's a lot of tests, even to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I started, I would be like, oh, we'll do this one test. And then that comes back. And then we work on those things. And then we wait for the next test. And then we wait for the next test. What I realized was like, actually, there's this set of tests always gives us information, and it gives us the most amount of fertility information we can possibly have. So why not do all of those up front? And then we have all the info, we can knock it out, rather than feeling like, oh, we always have to circle back to more testing,
Mm-hmm.
which is also like frustrating for the couple. They're like, oh my God, more testing? Are you serious? But if they've already knocked it out, then we don't have to keep asking them for more.
I'm curious if you explore the gut with that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. The gut is a big component of what's happening with the hormones. So, definitely like what we eat and the state of our microbes in the gut. The microbes in the gut are going to inform the microbes in the vagina, which is directly going to affect fertility. So, there's so many interconnections with the gut that you cannot ignore
Yeah.
the gut.
We have a whole episode
Absolutely.
on the overlap we can link also in the notes. Yeah,
Yes.
good
Yes.
refresher.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely, I mean, our environment is such a big factor. And I'm curious, even for that couple, like as soon as you framed that information back at them when they share their story, it's like, oh, no wonder my body is not able to do this thing. Like I'm in survival mode. And that's where so much of this nervous system talk comes from. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up the timeline of things because I think a lot of people don't have a grasp of like it takes
Yeah.
our body time to heal,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be really challenging,
Yeah.
especially if like they've been trying for an extended period of time or whatever their circumstances are. They feel this time pressure, like I'm running
Yeah.
out of time. How can I invest 6 months or 9 months, a year at this point
Yeah.
without the straight to fertility treatment? And like what do you say to those people?
Yeah. It's tough, honestly. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people have been given this false narrative that they're going to walk into a fertility clinic and walk out with a
Yeah.
baby. And in that context, everything else seems like it's going to take forever.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, most people are working at with a fertility
Mm-hmm.
clinic for the average of 3 years,
Yeah.
right? So even with this quote unquote fast path, you're spending so much time
And
going
money.
through cycles, and yes, and so much money, like insane amounts of money. So when they're talking to us, I try to be as realistic as possible in terms of the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've seen is that I have kind of a general idea, especially if we've done testing. I know on average, an adrenal, like this flat line of
Mm-hmm.
adrenal and all hormone systems, this is going to take like 9 months
Yeah.
to fix. Versus someone who maybe just is like progesterone deficient and might only take 3 to 4 months to fix. So, sorry, I didn't mean to say like fix as in fixing the person, but fix that issue
Totally.
in 3 to 4 months. So it's really like if we can get again, the advantage of having that testing up front
Yeah.
is we know exactly how many roadblocks they have on their path,
Yeah.
and we know an average amount of time that it will take to address that roadblock.
Yeah.
And if they follow the plan, if they, and this is a big if,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be surprised like the number of people we see that are like, oh, we wanted to be pregnant 3 years ago, and yet I tell them to make some basic changes, and 4 months later they're still like, no, we haven't done that yet.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, if we were going to do this in 6 months, this should have happened
Right.
4 months ago, 3.5 months ago at least.
That's what I was
So
going to call out too is like, I don't want to put shame on anyone who has worked in a fertility clinic, has worked with a specialist. Like, I'm so grateful that we have those tools and accessibility in modern medicine. Like, amazing. Thank you. But it's also, in my experience, most often still more of a band aid and very medicalized approach where it's not addressing what are these underlying contributors to why is your body not doing this thing that we are programmed to do. Now there are so many nuances between fibroids and polyps and things that like we need to address still the underlying issue, but there may also be a physical component. But going this more holistic route is not only going to help to support you on the path to fertility, but it's also going to support your long-term health. And I think that that's something that is missed. It's not just like, oh, let's go one route or the other. This is like, how are you going to be as a parent? How are you going to handle postpartum? How are you going to, if you want to have another child, prep your body for that and not have to go through this whole cycle all over again? So like, I don't know if that conversation is, or when people are making a decision, that that's thought about either.
Yeah, I feel like those are all really good questions to have people thinking about, because I think a lot of times we don't anticipate what it's actually going to take.
Yeah.
And the couples that are like not taking action, haven't done the work for months and months, we often will say like, hey, we need a reality check here. Like, we have this couple right now who's 43. The guy goes to bed at 3 a.m. because he works like a madman. Like, he literally works 16 hours a day. And his wife doesn't work, yet she's exhausted all the time. She doesn't, it's not like a hormonal exhaustion. She's got other stuff that she's not looking at. Yeah. And like, it took her 3 months to drop off the lab tests that we gave them. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize I have to go all the way to the post office to drop this off. I'm like, well, you could pay someone on TaskRabbit to come and get it for you and drop it off if that's the issue. And like, money is obviously not your guys' issue. So use your resources, do what you got to do. But the bigger question is like, well, if you're this exhausted, how are you going to take care of your baby? Like, who is going to take care of this child?
Yeah.
Because you feel like she's literally like, I don't want to cook. I don't want to do anything. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to do something. So, and she's like, well, I didn't realize it was just going to be such a time commitment. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't need to work with us. Like, it's totally fine. Wow. We're not the only kids on the block. And they were like, no, we definitely want to work with you. It's like, okay, well then I need you to take action. And it's not a negotiation.
It's like such a perfect image too of, and I'm generalizing for sure, but I think a lot of people in our country, I mean, look at like the Ozempic thing, you know? People are utilizing this because they don't want to make lifestyle changes.
Yes.
And they're going to have to be on it for the rest of their lives if they want to remain like having lost the weight that they've lost, because they're not making the lifestyle changes. And so much of it comes back to, we have to have the foundation. Like the things we actually need to survive are like food, shelter, water, and companionship. Okay, let's like, you know, have those basics down. Yes, sleep. Before we go and layer all these other things on top that don't matter. But we're spending our time on literally things that don't really matter instead, and we want the results.
Yeah.
And so I think that's such a good caveat to like so much of health, right? It takes effort. It takes effort and discipline. And I was going to ask you, I'm curious, in your mind, how much of this is mental as it is physical? And I think part of that, right, is like being like, okay, I'm prepared to show up and make these changes and do this because this is something I desire, as well as the mental aspect of believing that like my baby's going to come to me when it feels safe and ready to come to me. And I think that there's both sides of that. Do you kind of coach your clients through that as well?
Yeah. So I think that it's this like oxymoronic state of, I am doing all of the things and I'm also surrendering.
Mm-hmm.
And this doing and surrendering feels like they're at opposition with each other, right? And I have a lot of ladies who I've talked to who are like, "Oh no, I'm just going to like wait and see what happens." And it's just going to happen magically because I have the faith in my heart that it's going to happen.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Yes, and the faith is what brought you here." Telling you to take action.
Like, here are the steps.
Here are the steps to like activate that faith into real life things that are going to create the scenario that's going to help this happen.
I love that you say that, because at Maria we have this literal chart of discipline and surrender, and the overlap is like where the healing happens. Because there's surrender to what's reality,
Yes.
and then there's the discipline of like what action you can take. And those things together is what creates this like future self that you're after, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And we like, I feel like we realize that the discipline has to be there in every other area of our life. But then when it comes to health, we're like, oh no, that's just a surrender piece, especially with fertility. I think there's this like, oh, I'm going to manifest my baby. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'm on board with that. But manifesting is like the mental game, but it's also like, what are you doing in your everyday life? And if you can like manifest the crap out of it and meditate for hours and hours and hours, but if your physiology isn't aligned, sorry to break it to you, it ain't happening.
Well, and if you've like done your research on the actual science behind manifestation, there's aligned action that must go with the manifestation. It's not just the like sitting and meditating and making a vision board. Like that's glamorous, that's cute, but the aligned action is just as important.
Exactly. So I think that, you know, at least for me in my personal practice, like I'm huge into manifestation, meditation, all of that stuff. But like my meditations aren't bring me XYZ. It's like, what do I need clarity on to take the steps that I need to get to that future self that I'm working towards? It's never like, bring it to me and I'm just going to sit on my mat and it's all just going to appear. And I think that that's unfortunately like the whole manifestation thing is taken out of context and made popular by people who are actually taking steps, but they don't show that. Yeah, you're not like seeing the back end of this. So it feels very magical, and it feels, in the fertility world, I see it so much because it does feel like that surrender piece is important. And I like absolutely think that we do need to give to this like higher power, and it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And all of those things are true, but we need to also like take the steps and be in action around our future baby.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'd love to dive into just a little bit of, I mean, I think we've given a lot of action steps already, and a lot of it is mindset and taking the steps. But if someone is noticing like red flags, like irregular cycles, short bleeds, maybe, irregular ovulation or no ovulation, like where would you tell that listener right now to begin to focus some energy, or what are some of those things they can get disciplined about?
I think you named it earlier, Monica. It's having the discipline around the foundation is crucial. It's your sleep, your food intake, your water intake, and your like supplements or things, if you have them, to take those, right? So I think the sleep piece is obvious, or maybe not. I feel like at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep ideally way before 12 o'clock at night.
Yes.
And making sure that you're rested when you wake up. And there's lots of ways to optimize sleep and biohack sleep and all of that. So that's the starting point.
Women need
Food,
more sleep than
like,
men, also.
yes,
Yeah, don't feel
yeah, that's
bad that you're
absolutely
sleepier than
true.
your partner. Like, sleep.
Yes, it's thank you for saying that, Nora. It is so true that women need more sleep and they don't realize it. So, yes, absolutely. And then we were doing food, and food is like eat a whole foods diet with things that come out of the earth, less processed the better, eat
Enough.
adequate amounts of protein. Like, we
Enough
all
food.
know the things. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, eat adequate calories, right? Like, don't go on a diet, don't go on a fast. That's the food piece. And then water intake, I think we don't realize how much water is actually a foundation for us. But water intake is crucial, crucial, crucial. It is what drives all of your hormones to where they need to go. It nourishes your ovaries.
Yeah.
If you like dehydrate your ovaries, sorry, egg reserves are probably going to go down. So like hydrate adequately. And then I think the other big piece is definitely around toxins. Like, if we could get rid
Yeah.
of the toxins that are in the environment, that's a really good starting point.
What are some of the
Plastics.
like quick toxin things that you kind of tell
Yeah.
your clients first?
Yeah. Plastic, phthalates, and glyphosate. Those three are the biggest reproductive toxins. Plastic is easy. Get rid of all the plastic garbage in your life. Stop cooking with plastic coated pots and pans and storing your food in plastic and stuff like that. Phthalates are in everything fragrance. So go through all your products, like what has fragrance, throw it away. If it says fragrance or perfume, those are usually red flags for phthalates. And then the last one was glyphosate, and that's the one we probably don't think about a ton. But glyphosates are essentially Roundup that's sprayed on plants. So yes, partly it's coming into our food if we are eating non-organic food, but what we don't think about is the cotton that is sprayed with glyphosate and turns into our period products. And the glyphosate then, like, if it's turning into tampons or pads, is going right to our reproductive system, where it's wreaking havoc on the microbiome of the reproductive system. So getting rid of pads and tampons, ideally getting rid of them altogether. If we can't, then going more organic. Watch out for the brands that are like, say, organic on the front, and then you flip it over and it's like 5% of our cotton is organically sprayed, blah blah blah. It's like, okay, 5% is not cutting it. I'm sorry.
Right.
That's not gonna work.
What is your like go-to period product?
I am super into menstrual cups. Uh, like, ideally medical grade silicone, latex,
Yeah.
etc. And or period panties, like organic period panties, which do exist. And they're reusable. Even if you didn't get those organic, they're reusable.
Yeah.
So by the time you go through 3 washes, the glyphosate is out.
I
So,
love the disc as well.
I'm
oh
obsessed with
yeah,
the disc. I've
really?
been
I
using the
haven't
Yeah.
tried it.
flex. I've been using the
Yeah.
flex ones a lot, and they're so nice.
It's
Okay.
for me personally, like the comfortability is so much better than the menstrual cup.
Huh.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
feel like I can get it in place better than a menstrual cup. I don't know if it's because the surface area is bigger. So there's less leaks, which is like my biggest complaint with a cup.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the disc, it like is really easy to tuck behind your pubic bone. And
Okay.
the Viv one, Nora, have you used the Viv one?
No, I have the salt.
It has like a tab on it. It's
Yeah.
like almost like a soda can tab, and so it's like less
To, like, pull it
scary
out.
to get it out. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest concern people have is like, how am I gonna get this thing out?
Okay. Okay, I want to try it.
Yeah.
I'm
There's silicone
not
too.
familiar.
It's great. And you can leave it in for
I have like a
12
whole box
hours.
of Flex ones. I'll send you some.
What? Thank you. That's so sweet.
My husband asked me if I miss having my period since I'm pregnant, and I was like, that is maybe the biggest disconnect. Like, no, I do not miss having my period. I love not having my cycle and having to think about when it's going to happen and have all of my products and
Right.
things. I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, nope.
Yeah. 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 But there's like pregnancy is also like comes with a whole bunch of
Oh,
other stuff
sure.
that you have to go through.
Yeah.
So
I'm not glamorizing or belittling the experience, but I just thought it was so funny because, like, as a person, if you've never had a menstrual cycle, you might not understand what not having it is like.
right.
And it is
Right.
a nice little vacation. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
And breastfeeding, it
exactly.
continues. So most of the time, no period. Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll have a few more
a few
months.
more months. Yes, hopefully. um, big thing I think that people have a hard time with following, and this comes back to behavior change, the stress component, just in general. When people are like, "Oh, lower your stress," like reduce your stress, like
Especially in the container of trying to conceive, where
yes,
you're like, every luteal phase, you're just like, okay,
Right.
I'm just waiting.
Right. What lowering of stress? It's like more stressful than ever. Uh I don't give people the advice to lower your stress. I don't think that's a possible thing in our world. And that's coming from a super high achieving woman who runs 3 businesses,
yeah.
right? Like there is no like getting rid of stress. And like if I talk to my husband, he'll be like, well, you could like stop doing 2 out of 3 of your businesses. And I'm like, yeah, that's not really an option that I'm willing to explore. So I think that the better question is how do we build stress resilience and how do we increase our body's capacity to handle and connect to that stress differently.
Yeah.
And I believe that there are some really easy ways to help retrain the nervous system. And I shared a few of them in the TED Talk, actually. The 5 minutes of body scanning every day has like a 40% decline in stress hormones. 5 minutes a day. And all you're doing is like sitting and like scanning your body. Like, what do I feel in every little part of my body? And as you're going through that, your nervous system is instantly calming down. And if you have less stress hormones floating through you, you automatically have better stress resilience. So that's one easy tool. I think the other one, that the sleep is crucial. And like the regularity of sleep, I think helps create more safety in the body. But the one as women that we don't think about that much, that I wish we did think about more, is being in circles of women that are supportive and elevating and nourishing
Yeah.
to our system.
I love that.
We women co-regulate. So when we're around other women that are regulated, that are like a safe container, that are like, let me hold your hand and like be with you while you're in this stressed period, is enough for our nervous system to calm down. And then we automatically have more stress resilience. So, and actually, other things that help increase oxytocin in the body. Oxytocin is a really crucial hormone that I think we're going to keep hearing more and more about. But one of the coolest things about that hormone is its stress resilience. So if you have oxytocin floating through your system, you are less likely to feel stressed because it balances your stress response. It's essentially like the neutralizer of cortisol, if we want to think about it that way. So oxytocin, if we can help stimulate the production of oxytocin in our bodies, we're going to have more stress resilience. So those, like, I think of it as like, what are some biohacky ways to circumvent this whole issue? Because when we're told to stress less, especially on the fertility
Mm-hmm.
journey, like, I remember when I was trying to conceive and people would just be like, "Oh, you just need to have less stress." And I was like, "I'm going to punch you. I'm literally going to punch you."
I think that
Because it
resonates
just feels so impossible, right? Like,
it
it's
resonates so much with me because I'm like the founder of a company and
right.
like a homeowner. Like there's just like so many things that create
Yes.
stress in your life. You're like,
Yes.
what? I'm sorry, stress less. But I like how you reframe it to resiliency. That
Mm-hmm.
makes it feel easier.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, as soon as you think about, oh, I'm going to increase stress resilience, then you're like, okay, well, what tools do I
Right.
put in to increase that stress resilience,
Mm-hmm.
rather than how do I have less
Yeah.
stress? And yeah. And then I think the thing that we didn't talk about is our relationship to stress. And I view that as sort of the colored lenses that we walk around the world with. So if we're walking around the world with these blue lenses that feel like the world is cold and distant and I'm alone and I have to do for myself and I have to figure it out myself, then guess what? That level of stress is
Mm-hmm.
going to be very different from the rose colored
Yeah.
glasses that's like, everything's here to help me and everyone's here to support me and I can call up my friend and ask for support. And that's a very different world to
Yeah.
live in. So really thinking about the glasses that we're wearing and how do we shift those glasses to ones that are going to be supportive of who we want to be in this world.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that that's so important. Our perspective, how we
Mm-hmm.
perceive our own personal awareness of how we're perceiving the world, right? You can go through life with a negative outlook and you don't even know that you're doing it. It's just natural to you. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to even question and be curious about what your own perception is definitely a really cool perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just that the approach between like empowered, how can I support stress resilience versus victim of these are all the things in my life and everything that's going on in the world. How can we not know? And not letting that directly influence me. Like I see those two as being so
Yeah.
different and actionable versus victim mindset.
Yeah.
I'm curious just because we've talked about manifestation and then you talked about body scanning as a great stress resilience tool. Have you read the book Mind Magic?
No.
Okay, it's like the neuroscience behind manifestation. And
Oh,
the
stop.
first tool that he utilizes through the whole book, he goes through his manifestation process in the book, is body scanning every
Mm-hmm.
time. So it always starts with a five
Oh
minute
my
body
goodness.
scan. And he talks about like the manifestation, what we're already manifesting in our life versus what we want to,
Mm-hmm.
and then also taking aligned action. So it
Okay. I'm
would
on
like
it. That's
sum
my next
up so much
read.
of what we talked about.
That's literally going to be my next read. I can't believe I've never heard of it.
It's good.
Um,
And he's a
I
neuroscientist, so that's like science
Oh, that's
based.
cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Heard him.
I am highly influenced by Dr. Joe Dispenza, who has a similar process around manifestation and
Yeah.
like feeling into your body and your like being present with your sensations. So, yeah.
Yeah. So important. This has been such a great conversation, and I feel like the three of us are very aligned in the things we preach, and our community will hear this conversation and be like, oh, yeah, we've heard this before. We've heard the blood sugar thing before. We've
Mm-hmm.
heard the like eat enough. We've heard the sleep thing. It's all conversations that we have in the, container of period
Mhm.
health and improving your menstrual cycles. And whether you do it for your menstrual cycle or for your fertility, it all comes back to so many of the basics. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for you sharing with us today. Where can our community find you and learn more about what you're doing?
The best place to connect is on Instagram at Holistic Fertility Doctor. I'm pretty alive in the chat, so feel free to send me a DM, a voice memo, whatever, and we can connect there. And I do have a podcast called Egg Meets Sperm. They can check that out. Definitely check out the TED Talk, which you guys are going to link in the show notes. And where else? And then we have a YouTube channel if people are interested in like deep dive. Like I kind of see them as mini courses, basically, on different topics if you are looking for something more specific around the topic.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been amazing. And I hope for our listeners, even just hearing, the male factor component, things in our environment, but also being able to have agency over this process is really, really important themes that I would love for people to take home from this conversation. If you've found this episode helpful, we'd love for you to just like and share this and spread this message with individuals who maybe are thinking about trying to conceive, just knowing that there are resources and things and people out there to support you along the way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are awesome. I really love connecting. And I'm so excited for the couple of resources that I picked up today. So thank you.
Love that.